Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Erin.
And you're listening to Ropedrop and Parkhop.
And we are recording this immediately after last week's intro.
Right.
Which is why we still sound the same.
And we don't really have any news because we just covered it all for last week. So hopefully nothing huge drops, but
if it does, maybe I'll make a blurb.
One thing we didn't cover in the news for last week is that Magic Keys are mostly still available, which is kind of crazy. So it remains to be seen if they're still available now, but they should be.
We're wondering. We'll see. This is a week. This is a week and a half from when we're recording is when this episode will drop.
Mm-hmm.
So as of today, Tuesday, the 12th of March, they're still available. It's been a week. And I wonder if they just quietly opened them up.
Letting them be open forever. Yeah, we'll see.
And I think, too, once that initial purchase, where people have to wait in a queue, that initial rush of people trying to purchase Magic Keys is over. I can't imagine that it's not crazy. Magic Keys are not flying off the shelves now.
Right.
Probably there's some steady purchasing happening, but...
Or people upgrading their tickets at the parks, right?
Right. But it will level out. It worked before COVID.
Right.
So there's got to be a point in time where they're just available again. So maybe this is just their quiet slide into that and testing the waters and seeing how it goes. And
then we would really love a quiet slide into no reservations.
Right.
Please,
no
and
reservations. And let's go back to some keys that have no blackout dates. And maybe a bi-coastal key would be great too. Come on.
It's not that hard.
It's not.
Let's read a review and then we'll get into the episode.
Okay.
This is from Jackie Lynn. And she says, love it. 5 stars. Oh, there's an update on this one.
Oh, good.
Okay, so her original review says, best Disneyland podcast I've heard yet. It feels like I'm chatting with my girlfriends. And then her update is, planned a small one-day trip to Disneyland for my daughter's 9th birthday, so I came back to this podcast again and still love it. Even my 9-year-old got into it. Sometimes I even listen without a trip planned.
Oh, yay.
Hey, there you go. Thank you.
Let us know if you're still here.
Yes, and I'm glad you had a good time. That's really fun.
That's it for news.
I think so.
If there's news, we'll add something.
Yes,
somewhere.
if it's something huge. If not, we'll cover it next week.
If not, we'll cover it next week.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
Our podcast is brought to you by Mouse World Travel. Imagine going on the most stress-free, well-planned Disney vacation of your life. Now imagine you didn't pay anything extra for that personalized service. That's what you'll get when you use an authorized travel planner from Mouse World Travel to book your next Disney vacation. From resorts to cruises and everything in between, they are here to help you get the most out of your next family trip. Just go to mouseworldtravel.com, fill out a short request form, and make sure you mention our code ROPEDROP so they know that we sent you. Okay, guys, we are back from trip number 2 in the space of 2 weeks, and we are going to talk all about trip number 1 and trip number 2 today and go over some highlights. And so the trip 2 weeks ago was our training, our Disney planner training that we went to, courtesy of Mouse World Travel. Thank you so much. And then this most recent trip we went on, if you haven't been paying attention, was our meetup, which was really, really fun. So let's talk first, though, about our Disneyland training.
It was great.
Weekend. It was really quick.
Yes.
We got to stay in the Disneyland Hotel, which was Erin's first time staying there.
Which
super cool.
So backpedaling just a tiny bit, this past weekend, our meetup, so let's call them meetup trip, work trip, meetup trip, planner trip.
Okay.
So the meetup trip was supposed to be my first time staying at the Disneyland Hotel because I was traveling with Katie and our friend Betsy, and both of them have stayed there before, but I had not. So I felt like it was kind of for me. I feel like you guys made that concession for me so that I could stay there. And so I was super excited about it. We've had that trip planned since like July or August last summer, sometime last summer. And then about a month ago or a month prior to the planner trip, we were invited by Disneyland and Mouse World Travel to go, and got word that we'd be staying at the Disneyland Hotel. And so that took the place of my first time.
Right.
We stayed in the Frontier Tower, which is the farthest tower from the front desk.
Right.
But
And the longest walk to the park, I would say.
yes, the longest walk to the park going. Super close, though, to that Pixar Place exit from DCA.
Right.
Which is fantastic. Use it if you're staying in the Frontier Tower at the Disneyland Hotel.
But only for exiting. They will not let you go in without
Correct.
a Pixar Place hotel key.
Correct. So, but it's on that kind of that far end, close to Pixar Place Hotel.
Yep.
We had a parking lot view and also a park view.
Right. So it was a standard city view, technically, but we could see the park really well.
We totally could. And if we squished our face really hard up against the glass, we could see Guardians in the distance. But we could see Cars Land pretty well. We could see a little bit of the Paradise Garden area.
Right. So a tiny bit of World of Color. We could mostly just see the glowing of it.
And we could hear it.
And we could hear it, yes, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then one morning there was a wedding happening, and we could see the Cinderella carriage and horses from our window getting all loaded up and ready to go for the princess getting married that day.
Which I missed. I wasn't in the room at that time. But
that was really cool.
I've heard it was cool. The wedding was beautiful. We could see the setup in a couple of different places. Our meeting was in a ballroom in the convention center at the Disneyland Hotel, and we were right across from the room where the bride and groom were getting married.
So pretty.
It was great.
Weddings at Disneyland are magical.
Oh, we saw one this past weekend too.
And that one was very stunning.
That one was beautiful. And listen to this. Be this kind of person, because they were doing pictures. We were walking through trying to get to our room as it was ending, and they were doing all the pictures. And so the bridesmaids and the groomsmen were kind of gathered on the path that we were walking on. And as we walked up, I was like, you girls look so pretty. And they said, thank you. And immediately said, if you think we're pretty, you should see our friend. And I was like, even now, it kind of brings tears to my eyes. And I was like, oh, that's such a good friend to have on your wedding day, someone who totally builds you up. And then the groomsmen, too, were like, and I said, oh, and he's so handsome, like I said about the groom. And they were like, yeah, he's the handsomest guy. And they were sweet.
Yep. Good little cheerleader friends.
Totally.
Nice work.
I love seeing weddings when you're there. I think it's so much fun.
So I would say, so we got there on a Sunday for the planning trip, and we hit the parks for a little bit and then had a welcome session that evening and then a welcome dinner at Great Maple, which let's talk about Great Maple for a little bit. I think it's a great little restaurant. It's a good option. It's hardly ever busy. There's almost always reservations available for that last minute. So if you're looking for a nice place to duck away and go have some good food, go check out Great Maple. And the Pixar Place Hotel is just so cute, so well done. I love the updates.
I agree.
It's a fun, fresh, clean feel to it. And I
agree.
love it.
And that was my first time dining at Great Maple, and everything was great. They have really yummy appetizers, great main dishes. We had donuts for dessert, which is kind of their signature deal.
Right.
And the restaurant itself is beautiful. We talked a little bit. We've recorded this episode once, in case you were
Half of
wondering.
it.
Yes. And then we ran into some problems with our SD card. But I'm trying to remember. We talked a little bit about the pictures, the photography.
Right. Yes.
That's up in the Great Maple restaurant, and how cool it is.
They're beautiful pictures. It's Pixar characters, but it's like an Annie Leibovitz style portrait.
It's supposed to look like a photograph, like a black and white.
But they're like kind of looking off into the distance, and they're
close
very,
up.
Yes, they're beautiful. That's all I can say.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
So it's very, and it's like candid almost, like they're candid faces. And so we sat by Frozone.
Yes.
And it was,
and Mrs. Incredible.
Or would you call her, what's her name?
I cannot think of her name right now.
What's their last name?
Um,
Bob Parr. Helen.
Helen. Yes,
I had to think about it for just a second. I would say that was Helen.
Yes.
In just her regular
right, 'cause she
day.
didn't have a mask on or anything. Right.
But zoomed in, and she's kind of, they're just
like
emotional.
A look of far off wonderment on her face. And
they're really cool.
And Frozone's super handsome in his picture, right?
And I just think whoever came up with that concept gets a raise.
Super cool.
It's great.
And
they're
I
really
love
great.
the bathrooms right outside of Great Maple, too, in the lobby are really, really cutely themed. Really fun.
Yeah,
the whole atmosphere is really nice. And they have outdoor dining at Great Maple as well with little fire
and we were
tables
kind of outside.
Yeah, we were in like the converted part where they, it's like almost like garage doors that open up so they can close them if it's too chilly outside, but also you can have.
And there's heaters in the air.
Yes.
And I think we were in kind of that transitional area between inside and out, and we were perfect. I wasn't cold at all.
No, I thought it was great.
Oh, and if you thought it was great, then it was great.
Yes, it was.
Because Katie gets cold.
And then we got a reserved viewing area for World of Color that we went that our group went and checked out.
And when they zigged right, we zagged left and went to bed because we've seen World of Color a few times and just decided to hit the hay instead.
Yes.
We had gotten up at 4:30 in the morning
Maybe
to fly.
Even earlier than that, right? I think it was because I think we left for the airport at 4. So that was
a long day.
Early morning.
We were very tired. But in this process, also we got to meet. Well, there were probably about 100 different agents from around the country, mostly from the Southeast.
Right.
There were a few who were more Western states, but mostly Eastern states.
Which part of the fun of that was there were a lot of Disneyland first-timers in that group, which really surprised me.
I would say half, at least.
A lot. It was really fun. And we ended up sitting at a table with some really fun ladies from West Virginia.
Shout out to Jerica and Lauren.
Yes. And it was their first time at Disneyland. And we ended up hanging out with them quite a bit, actually, and going with them on rides for their first time, which that's my favorite.
It's so fun.
I love it so much.
It's so fun. And they were really fun.
Yes.
Anyway, I think it would have been fun even if it was their 100th time.
Right.
But yes, and they got to ride Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time, and they're very frequent flyers at Walt Disney World. So it was kind of fun to hear their comparisons. We compare sometimes. And it was also really fun to talk to them about, like, they had never thought of Disneyland as an option for them.
Right.
Because it's so far away. But once they actually got to come and experience the parks.
They were so ready to come back already with their families.
Yes. So, and I've talked to Jerica a few times since. And she's like, I'm still just trying to figure out how we're going to get back.
Yeah.
And we're working on planning a trip. And they're so excited for it.
So cute.
So if you're a Walt Disney World frequenter wondering if Disneyland is for you, it absolutely is. It's different enough. And there's still plenty to do. And I think that, it's definitely something to look into. And yeah.
For sure.
We saw so many people just really enjoying themselves for their first time.
And then the highlight for me on this conference planning trip was meeting Danny, who gave us a little presentation during our training on Monday. And he is an ABD, which is Adventures by Disney guide, back and forth between the Southern California ABD, which we've talked about on our podcast quite a few times. We had a guest on once to talk about her experience with it. And then he also does Europe. He's headed to Germany this spring, summer to do some ABDs there. So he was fantastic. His presentation was great. We were listening to him, and Aaron leans over and goes, we got to get him on the podcast because he was just so great. And really cool history for him is that he was the genie in Aladdin when it was at the Hyperion at DCA. So he has really awesome ties to the Disney parks. And
once he was done there, he went to Broadway for a little while, too. And so if you ever saw Aladdin at the Hyperion, chances are
you probably
saw Danny,
him.
the genie. So we actually ended up having lunch with him.
Right.
Is really the coolest part of it. Right. After his presentation, we were taken to another ballroom for a catered lunch, which, by the way,
super good food catered at Disneyland.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but also for catered, buffet food.
Right.
Such good food.
It was really
Best
good.
eggs I've ever eaten for breakfast.
Scrambled eggs.
Really good mashed potatoes at lunch. We were fed so well.
Yeah, everything was great.
But we got super lucky because when he came into the ballroom, I wanted to introduce us and I wanted to give him our card and talk to him about possibly coming and being a guest on the podcast. And when I walked up to him to do that, he was like, actually, do you guys have a seat available at your table? And I was like, yes. And he came and sat with us the entire lunch and talked. And we have a ton in common. And we really connected great with him.
Yes, and he said he agreed to come be on. So look forward to that.
We need to get that.
He is an
happening.
Absolute joy.
He really is. So it'll be a super fun episode when we get him here.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And then one other highlight that I thought of, since it's been a little while since we've been there.
I know.
So you've probably heard us talk about buddy passes on the podcast before. So there's a couple different rides that we'll do. Buddy passes, Monsters, Inc. is one of them. Toy Story Midway Mania used to be one of them, apparently. So we walked up to try and do. The line was long. We had
a flight to catch,
right? And we didn't pull a lightning lane for it. So we walked up to Buddy Pass line. There was a cast member standing there, which is usually an indication that they're doing it. And he said, "No, we don't do it at this ride anymore, at least for now." And we just smiled and said, "Okay, thank you." And he goes, "But my job now is to make magic for people." And so he took us right in and got us right on.
We waited 30 seconds.
And his name was Kenny, and he was amazing and so cute. And we made sure we found him after the ride and told him, "Thank you, you made our day." And
yes.
and
I submitted
really
a cast member compliment, too.
Yep.
Don't forget to do that if something like that happens.
Absolutely.
With a cast member, make sure you get on. In fact, one of the things that I picked up from this weekend, which we'll talk more about in a minute, one of our buddies from Washington, Bill, he was talking several times. We talked about this, about how compliments are free. You lose nothing by giving somebody a compliment. And he makes it a goal every single day to go into the app and leave a cast member compliment for somebody that made his day better. And I love that so much.
Yes, that goes such a long way, too, not just for the cast member themselves, but for their career at Disney.
Right.
It makes a huge difference for them.
Right. And, they're free.
Yeah.
I agree. They're free and they make people feel so good about themselves and makes a day better. So go ahead and do that. One of the highlights for me was getting to tour the rooms at the various Disney resort hotels. So Katie and I have talked about this because, Disneyland, it's very easy to stay across the street at a Good Neighbor hotel. It's very easy to get in and out of Disneyland when you're not staying on property. And like we mentioned, this was my first time staying on property. It's different. It really is different. It's very much that Disney bubble feeling when you are dropped off at a Disney hotel and you don't leave property.
Right. And I don't think you realize that until you try it out.
Until you do it.
Because it feels like the harbor hotels are just as close or closer, right? So you think, well, that's just the same kind of magic. It's just a little bit different.
And it's hard to explain, but when you're walking, and you have a walk when you're leaving the Disneyland hotel in the morning trying to get to the parks, you have to walk through the entirety of downtown Disney. But you've got Disney music playing.
Right. And not the sound of traffic.
And horns and ambulances.
Right. And not having to cross a crosswalk.
Yes.
And wait for the signal to give you the walkie guy.
Yep. And, there's not people coming out of McDonald's with their breakfast bags. I don't know. Yeah. It's just a very different feel.
Yep.
And
everything's so clean,
I was just going to say, everything's been hosed
overnight.
off.
Yes.
And
it smells
fresh.
good. Yes.
It's just a very different feel. And I joked about it. I mean, obviously, I'll still stay at hotels across the street.
Right.
But also, how do I ever stay anywhere else now?
Yes. So the moral of this story is if you can swing it,
do it.
Staying on property is so much fun. And
it's
if you
really
can't,
cool.
It's still amazing on the harbor side or wherever you end up staying.
Yep.
You're still going to Disneyland.
Yep.
Either way.
And it was fantastic to get to view all of the rooms. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
We have gone into a room at the villas at the Disneyland Hotel already. We got to go into another room. They're beautiful.
They are so pretty.
They're very pretty. And pricing wise, honestly, they're pretty comparable a lot of times to the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah, I've heard people say they didn't think that they could afford to stay there over the Disneyland Hotel. And everything that I've seen, it's pretty comparable. Yeah, they're pretty
In fact, I've had times where I've quoted a price for somebody and the villas were the less expensive option.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind if you're looking at staying on property, these brand new, gorgeous, beautiful rooms.
I do feel like they are booking up a little bit faster.
Do you?
Because they're newer than the...
Well, and there's fewer, right? There's one tower.
Right. And the other really nice thing about the villas is the pool area is much quieter over there, which we'll probably talk about that a little bit more in the next trip recap segment because we spent a little more time over there. But if you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel or the villas, you have access to all of the pools.
Yes.
So the villas pools and the Disneyland Hotel
and
pool.
vice versa.
Right.
If you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel,
correct,
you can head back to that villa pool. But they're beautiful, beautiful rooms.
Yep. So fresh and so clean.
Clean. And then we got to tour one of the brand new, refreshed, remodeled, rethemed, reimagined rooms at Pixar Place. What did you think?
So cute.
So cute.
If you have a Cars fan or any kind of Pixar fan in your family, this is the place to be. And I really feel like the perks of staying at this hotel have gotten to the point where I would almost choose that one over the other ones at some points, because they have that private entrance into the back of California Adventure.
Right.
Which is like, that's priceless.
Right.
It's so nice. It's the shortest
it's a
walk.
great location.
Yes, it drops you right in between Goofy Sky School and the Little Mermaid. And it like she was saying, the rooms are so nice and updated and clean. And if you have a premium view, you can see the entirety of California Adventure. You can see World of Color from your room. It's just a really lovely location.
It really is. And it's shocking to me because it used to be the third choice. And I think it is, I don't know, I think it's a good choice now.
It is a good choice. The price has gotten a little bit higher since they refreshed, so that makes sense. The other really cool thing is they have some pool level rooms that you can walk directly out from your room to the pool area, which I think is really cute.
It is really cool. And that pool area is fantastic. The fire pits all themed for like the angry, fiery characters of Pixar movies.
Right. There's a Jack and an Anger. And they have games out there. There's a lawn with some games that you can play.
It's a really, really fun hotel.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's definitely a contender if you're wanting to stay there. Gosh, those views are amazing. Amazing.
So pretty. And even if you're on the City View parking lot side, if it's a clear day, the mountains are so pretty in the distance. I don't know what those are, the Sierra Nevadas, Sierra California.
Sure. I don't know. And if you're looking westward, the palm trees, as far as the eye can see, are lovely toward the coastline.
Yeah.
I just think even parking lot views are okay.
Yeah.
And then the third hotel that we got to tour, of course, we stayed at the Disneyland, regular Disneyland hotel, so we didn't tour one of those rooms. We had one. But the third hotel that we got to tour is the Grand Californian. Honestly, my least favorite of the three.
So the rooms are the smallest there, I would say. The real perk of there is just the beautiful lobby, which anybody can enjoy the lobby. But the feeling of walking into that lobby and knowing that you're staying there is kind of cool.
That is, I can imagine.
It's a very bougie feeling.
I can imagine.
Also, the proximity to the parks and their own private entrance into California Adventure is
So you're not
really
going to find anything closer. I mean, even across the street off Harbor, you're still going to be closer with the Grand Californian.
Yep.
Its own security entrance, which cannot be said for any other hotel. And that private entrance is great. And like you've talked about before, hopping off of Grizzly River when you're soaking wet and running to your room to change into warmer clothes.
And if you have littles that need to have naps during the day, that's the closest option for you to go grab a nap really fast.
That being said, the room felt very dark to me.
So I feel like they're in need of an update. I also do miss, there was a time when we stayed there and they had bunk bed rooms that had bunk beds. I miss those. They don't have those anymore. That's not an option.
Which would have been great for families. Why did they get rid of them, I wonder?
I don't know. And then the pool area is really lovely there too. It's kind of got like this foresty feeling. You feel like you're secluded in a forest when you're in the pools. They have some water
The grounds
slides.
are lovely.
Yes.
And like it's a lovely hotel.
It is.
The rooms just felt so like I walked in and I just felt like it was middle of the day. And granted, it was a rainy day. It was kind of an overcast day.
Yes, and the room that we toured was a courtyard view, which was overlooking the monorail, which that's kind of fun, too, to have the monorail go by your room. But it's not like you're not getting full sunlight in those rooms.
And they're darker because it's like that wood, that rich wood.
The craftsman style.
Yes, and so it was just... And like you go into the bathroom and it's all the 1-inch tiles.
So they are a little dated.
They're dated.
And just compared to, Pixar Place and the Disneyland Villa rooms, which are so bright and updated and happy feeling, it's not that they're not happy rooms. You would still have an amazing time there.
Totally.
But they are smaller, like I said. And they are a little bit dated.
And they are the most expensive.
So you're really paying for proximity to the parks and convenience when you're staying there.
True story. So
there's a spa at this hotel too.
That is true.
All guests on property have access to the spa for booking exercise classes and massages and pedicures and whatever. But being able to be right there by the spa is kind of nice.
Yeah. And that lobby is beautiful.
It is.
But I don't know. I think... let's pretend you had not stayed at any of them. If you were going to go stay just based on those room tours, where would you stay?
I think, it would depend on the size of your family, obviously. Mm-hmm. If it's just a 4-person family, probably the villas, the
Same.
Disneyland Hotel villas.
Same.
Yeah.
I think I would choose the
Yeah.
villas. I think that they're just lovely, good central location, central to both parks.
And then second, I would pick Pixar Place right
Same.
now.
Same. Yep.
Yep.
So take that for what it's worth.
Right. The Disneyland Hotel still has my heart for my favorite, but I've stayed there enough now that I'm wanting to try other ones now.
Yeah. So let's fast forward.
Okay.
Now, and let's jump into this trip this past weekend, our meetup trip. We stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. We stayed club level.
Yes.
So we were in the Adventure Tower this time, and we decided to go with the premium view. Our view was amazing.
Yes. It's
Like
my
we had,
favorite.
and I talked about this on the episode that never got published, but I think one of my very favorite things, and maybe this is what was missing for me at the Grand, is like the floor to ceiling window.
Oh, yeah.
Wall to wall window. Like your entire far wall when you walk into the room is a window. For the Frontier Tower, where we were looking at a parking lot with a slice of park on the side.
Right.
And our Adventureland Tower room, it's so much light. And we had one evening when we went on that planning trip where we just kind of were chilling for a little while. And the birds were flying by and, it was kind of dusky. It's just lovely
Yes.
to have that huge, big window.
On the flip side of that, at the Grand Californian, every room has a balcony or a walkout patio. So you could open the windows and have the fresh
Which would be
California
nice, too.
air. So
Yeah.
there's, you pick what's most important to you, I guess.
Yeah. I loved the window.
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy was dead center in our view.
Yep.
We could see everything.
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 And I even said this at one point. I'm like, the resort is so beautiful and lovely from up here. Like being able to see the whole thing at once, just, I don't know. It was just magical.
It was really cool.
I'm running out of adjectives here.
The magical is like their trademarked adjective.
the one.
So keep it. We were able to watch World of Color one evening from our room, and then we pivoted and we were able to watch the fireworks
Yeah.
right when World of Color
Yes.
ended.
We turned our chairs to the other direction and watched the fireworks.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Club level is cool. So it's the e-ticket club on the 11th floor of the Adventure Tower. You need a ticket to get in, you need a
Room key.
to get in. And you have concierge services there. So if you need any help with your park reservation or your dining or anything like that, you have a specific member or a specific cast member there to help you with that.
And I noticed at one point you can even check in up there. You can
Really?
go. Yes, there were people that would just come straight up there with their luggage, talk to the people at the concierge desk, leave their luggage, go get some food, and then the concierge would let them know when their room was ready.
Interesting. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
And they were very helpful. You get turned down service with club level. So each night they came into our room to refresh our towels if we needed them.
They left us some fancy chocolate.
They left us chocolates, turned our beds down. So that was kind of cool. And then, of course, the main part of club level is the snacks and the drinks.
Right. Unlimited sodas. They have a giant fridge with all kinds of Coke.
Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, thank the heavens. Sprite. There was tomato juice.
Ginger
there was
ale.
Ginger ale, apple juice boxes. No water,
No.
which I wish there had been some form of water.
Right. So they had a water
Cooler.
and then they had like infused waters and lemonades and whatever in drink dispensers.
And iced tea. They're big on their iced tea at the
Yes.
Disneyland Hotel.
So, you didn't really have full meals there by any means.
No.
It was appetizers and snacks. And at breakfast, it was very, very
Odd.
light continental type breakfast.
Well, and odd stuff. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. There were deviled eggs out at breakfast, and I don't know where or who decided that a deviled egg is a breakfast food, but I contend that it is not.
She'd rather have the amazing
And there were
scrambled
two
eggs.
kinds. What kinds? There was regular deviled eggs, and then there was another one that was like a spicy deviled egg or something. I don't know. It was bizarre.
I wasn't paying attention
And then
to
there
that
was
part.
cheeses at breakfast.
Yes. Remember at the Candy Cane when we did breakfast, they had a huge charcuterie layout of cheese and meat and stuff
Yeah.
at breakfast time. So
but they didn't
maybe
have
that's
it
a
at
thing.
lunchtime.
Yeah.
So that's bizarre to me.
Yes.
And they didn't really they had oatmeal. That was the only hot food that they had. They had a little oatmeal bar. They had chia and regular yogurt with some different toppings, some granola, some fruits. coffee. They had an espresso machine that was down the entire time we were there. It was broken.
And then there was a sparkling water dispenser too, which was kind of cool.
Right. And then they have alcoholic beverages are available all day long. They had a couple of red wine selections, white wine selections, some beer selections. I heard a rumor that there were mimosas.
Nice.
I never saw them.
Maybe just at breakfast.
Maybe. And I'm trying to think what else. Some Danishes at breakfast time. At lunch, there were cookies, Uncrustables, which I ate my weight in Uncrustables this weekend.
There were chips and salsa every day.
And a little veggie with...
A crudité, if you will.
But yeah, a little veggie station.
Which I found, the 2 days that I was up there, that was enough for me at that time.
Right.
Right? Like we were going to get regular meals in the park anyway. So
Right.
we just needed something to take the edge off.
In the evenings, they have hot appetizers. We never went. Betsy did go one night. Our friend Betsy was there one evening and took some pictures, and it looked good.
It did. I think that she said that was the best
of the
food
stuff
that she'd seen the whole time we were there. So I'm sad we missed it, but
me too. And then late evenings are just kind of desserts and sweets and little.
And you can watch the fireworks from up there, and they pipe the music in, so you get like a whole fireworks experience. My favorite part of the club was the view from up there. Those floor to ceiling windows all the way across that whole club, and you can see everything. And
you can see all of Anaheim.
And it was relatively quiet up there most of the time. I know during dessert fireworks it got a little bit busy, but I sat up there for like an hour and a half or so at one point, and I mean maybe 10 people came in total. So
yeah,
I think it stays pretty quiet up there. It's a good place to sit and relax and have some snacks.
So let's talk about this really quickly since we're on the topic of the club level. What makes it worth the money? Because it's an addition. And I'll be honest, if I were just a regular person heading up, I don't know that I would pay for it.
I think, it's just feeling like you have another level of service on top of what you would get normally.
Yeah.
And some people are willing to pay for that.
Yeah. And it was shocking to me. A lot of families were there, which I think is probably the best people that it's for are families.
Yeah.
Families to come up and grab snacks for their kids instead of constantly spending money in the parks. Probably it's a wash.
Yeah, probably.
At some point.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I was I wish they had better food options.
Sure.
I feel like for the premium they're charging, some Mickey waffles and eggs wouldn't kill them.
Right. Well, and I've never stayed club level at any resort before COVID, but I have heard that it's changed since then, that it used to be more of an experience, more of an upscale experience as far as the food went. So I don't know why that changed.
Well, and that's kind of what happened
maybe they'll
during
bring
COVID.
it back.
I feel like everything kind of, and we've talked about this before, Disney charges a premium and delivers a little bit less than what they used to.
Right.
I mean, it was great. It was so convenient. It was great. We could just wander up. Coke Zero, like I probably spent all of the upgrade fee in Coke Zero.
She got her money's worth on the Coke Zero alone.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, there wasn't a ton of food. I mean,
the cast members up there were so nice.
Nice.
Bubbly and just very helpful, and like would bend over backwards to grab something. If you didn't find something that you wanted that was out already, they would try and find it for you.
There was a cast member who was cleaning when I was up there. We had just gotten there like right as the lunch part was put out. Betsy and I had wandered up. I think you had gone... You were hurrying to the park to meet with somebody for brunch. Okay. And so Betsy and I went up to get something to eat, and it was just that transitional time. And this gal was cleaning, this cast member was cleaning, and I set my plate down on my table and just said to Betsy, I need to go see if I can find forks because they hadn't been put out yet. And she stopped what she was doing. She was probably 10, 15 feet away from us, but she heard me. She stopped what she was doing. She walked over to the door into the kitchen area and just said, hey, can we get some forks out here? And then they came out and she handed me 2 forks.
Nice.
And that was kind of the level that everybody, like if they saw you looking like you were looking for something, they immediately were like, what can we help you find? And they were pleasant and sweet. Hector was working. He was one of the reasons executives were there. There were some executives there to give him 20 year. He'd been there for 20 years. And
Good job,
Hector. Anyway, that was kind of cool to see. And then you saw some other executives up there at another point in time.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a cool place. Totally a cool place.
Yeah.
And, you kind of feel a little neat coming in.
Yeah.
And And who doesn't like to feel a little bit neat?
Yeah,
occasionally.
I agree.
It's on the 11th floor with all of the cool suites. So the Big Thunder Suite.
Yes, the Mickey Mouse Suite.
The Adventureland Suite, which I've seen videos of all of these before.
We were so tempted to just knock on the doors and see if whoever was staying in there would just let us peek.
Please.
But we didn't.
We didn't.
We're not that
There
weird.
was one. We are not, thankfully. There was one of these suites that had a little gap at the bottom of the door, and I was so close to getting on my stomach and just kind of peeking under to see what I could see. But again, not that weird.
Right.
I at least have some boundaries.
Yes.
Anyway, this experience was fantastic. So then on top of, how am I ever going to stay anywhere else? How am I ever not going to have that view?
Right.
Because that view was amazing. We were on the
Really
9th
is.
floor.
Yeah.
Our room was
And
on
that
the
was
9th floor.
plenty high enough to see everything.
It was lovely.
Yep. Very cool. So let's talk about some of the things we did for the meetup the rest of the weekend. So Friday night, we gathered everybody up outside of Storytellers and had a lovely welcome dinner, I would call it, I
Yes.
guess.
This feels like 100 years ago.
It does feel like 100. It felt like 100 years ago yesterday.
I know.
Yesterday feels like 100 years ago. It was a very busy, very wonderful weekend.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and exhausting and all of that. But Storytellers was great. Neither of us have ever been for dinner to Storytellers, I don't think.
No, I had never been.
I've done breakfast, I've done brunch,
Yep.
I've done characters, but never just the dinner on its own. And I thought it was very nice.
Yeah.
I don't know that I need to do it again. Although we ran into somebody, was it yesterday?
Yes.
That asked us if we tried the corn chowder.
Which
while
we
were
did
there.
not.
We did not. Apparently, this is like a secret menu item that you have to request. Now we know. So I may have to go back
now
and
we
get the
do
corn
have to go
chowder because
back.
it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was like eating Thanksgiving dinner. It felt like a harvest type dinner.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it used to be, Chip and Dale hosted the breakfast and all of that at Storytellers. Now it's Tales of Adventure with Mickey and friends or whatever. And they're like in their safari outfits and stuff. But this, it almost reminded me of what's this rotating restaurant in Epcot?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Garden Grill.
Yes.
Yes. So, and that it kind of felt like that. It was
Okay.
like turkey and mashed potatoes and salads.
Which
and
I got none of this.
prime rib and chicken.
And I got none of that. Because there's two different sides to the
which
buffet.
I assumed that was the same on both
No,
sides.
it is
so I
not.
only went through one side. Aaron went through the other side. We got completely different dinners.
Yes. So I had pot roast and glazed carrots and, mashed potatoes were in the center for everybody.
Some roasted
A
vegetables.
farro salad. Like there was all kinds of stuff. Yeah, roasted vegetables, some Brussels sprouts. I really wanted prime rib, but it was gone by the time I got up there.
Oh, it was
And
so good too. It
Oh,
was
good.
really,
That's
really
great.
good. Yes, and the turkey I actually enjoyed more than the prime
Really?
rib, and the prime rib was really good. So there you go.
See, now maybe I really do need to go back.
I know,
For prime rib
seriously.
and corn chowder. But we had a good little group there. This was our very first time meeting. I mentioned that I wasn't a hugger last week on the episode, and everybody was so cute
They
about
were very
it.
respectful until she made the first move, and
But I hugged.
yeah, she got over it really fast. Because everyone is so nice, and we felt like best buddies immediately
Yes.
with everyone.
Yep.
So cute.
It was great. So we had dinner, and then everybody kind of headed back their own way. And then on Saturday morning, we rope dropped the Jungle Cruise.
Yep. We filled up half a boat.
We did fill up half a boat. We had a fantastic skipper.
Yeah.
Skipper Alex.
Yes, one of my favorites of all time.
He was great.
Actually, my two favorite skippers that I've ever had have been at Rope Drop for Jungle Cruise. So
Because they're
here's-
bright and they're fresh.
Here's our plug for rope dropping Jungle Cruise. I know it's not high on everybody's list. Everybody's running to Indy or Space Mountain or whatever, but try the Jungle Cruise, especially if Indy's down right away, which it often is. Pivot and go to the Jungle Cruise because it's a really fun experience first thing in the morning.
It was great.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It's kind of, there's still a little steam rising off the water. And Skipper Alex was just amazing.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun.
It was so good.
Yeah. And it was super fun riding with everybody.
Yes.
And then we visited for a little while afterwards when we got off. We got to visit with a bunch of different people. And I think, did I say this already? I might have said this already. My favorite thing is that people didn't feel obligated to do everything together.
Yeah.
And so, we had Arla, our friend from Washington, who was only able to come and ride the Jungle Cruise with us.
Right.
But it was
she
so
had
nice.
her family with her.
Yes.
So she wanted to go do some different things
But
with
it was
them.
so nice to meet her, and I'm
Yes.
glad that she took those few moments to come and ride the Jungle Cruise with us and then go back to her trip that she had planned.
Yep.
And, our dinner the first night, somebody came to dinner, and that was all she could do. And so we didn't see her the rest of the weekend. And, I mean, there were just little things here and there that were peppered in that were just, it was so much fun.
So great. So we all kind of went our separate ways after Jungle Cruise. Aaron and I cruised the parks, got some pictures and videos. We rode the Mark Twain. We did the Tiki Room. We did very easy, slow things
Is
that morning.
is that all we did that whole day?
So I think we didn't do any other attractions.
And then that evening, we met back up at Paradise Garden to do food and wine,
Right.
which you listened to our episode last week.
Right. We talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go listen to that episode if you haven't already, because we're not going to recap it.
We're not, but but we had, I think we talked a little bit about the great spot we had.
Yes.
If you're looking for kind of a quieter area, just go to that end of the Paradise Garden area, right around the corner from Boardwalk Pizza.
Right. So close-ish to Emotional Whirlwind.
Yes. As close as you can get. It's the very end, and it's kind of tucked back in a little corner, and it was a great
It's
spot.
nice and quiet. Although the Incredicoaster was not running.
That's
if
true.
the Incredicoaster had been running, that might have been a
probably
little bit
would
of a
have been a little
noisier
different.
spot. Yeah.
So
I
if
don't
you're
know.
going in those 2 weeks in April when the Incredicoaster is down again, it'll be perfect.
Yes. And then Sunday morning, bright and early, because it was daylight savings and we lost an hour, it felt so early.
It still feels so early.
We took advantage of early entry this morning because Aaron hadn't done early entry at California Adventure yet. We tried it while we were there for our planning trip. What we ended up doing was scanning in for early entry and then immediately leaving because we had a training to get to.
But we were stacking Genie
But we
Plus.
were going to start stacking our
Yep.
lightning lanes. So this was her first real experience with early entry at DCA. So we went, and the plan was to meet up with everybody by the Hyperion and Ropedrop Guardians. So she and I went in and
Made sure it was working.
Yes, made sure it was working and not broken, and we didn't get Jackson 5 that time or any other time.
Or any other time this time.
I
We
feel
got
like-
twice last time.
I think Joey jinxed us,
Stinking Joey.
to be honest.
So then we got off of that first ride, went over to the. I hid my Coke Zero for the morning behind the shawarma cart. It worked just fine. My Coke was still sitting there, and I grabbed it and waited. We waited for our friends.
Yeah.
We actually had to run to the bathroom.
Yes.
And we knew because we had stopped and said hello. Our friends were right at the rope.
Yes.
For rope drop, and so as we're walking across, we were like trying to wave,
Right.
and just nobody waved back. And so then
we kind of looked like
the turds
jerks.
who got to go in
Yes.
early, and we
Like,
were like, hey, we're in here
hello.
and you're not. We weren't. That was not.
But it was
our
kind of
intention.
fun. We sat on a bench and kind of just watched the crowd come in and get lined up, and all the Guardians cast members are like trying to funnel everybody into one line to get on Guardians. That was actually really fun.
It was.
to watch that happen.
I agree. And then by the time everybody showed up, we waited, maybe 2 minutes. We had a 20-minute wait. It
Yeah.
wasn't bad at all.
No,
So
it
even
wasn't
with that
bad.
big crowd headed to the park. And it's funny because it's a big crowd and then it's nobody.
Right,
By the time we got off, there was nobody.
right. And interestingly enough, even that 20 minutes in line felt like 5 because we were all so excited and chatting, and it just went by really quickly. And I mean, I'm going to say this probably 40 times, but this was the funnest group of people.
It really was.
They were amazing. This was somebody's first time on Guardians of the Galaxy. Sumit, we're giving you a shout out. So he's been on Tower of Terror before, but never Mission Breakout. And he's been to Disneyland quite a few times recently, but always with his family, which has little kids that don't want to ride it. And so he just never has. And
So it was his first time.
we got to be part of his first time, which was really fun.
Also, we had
almost a full car with us.
we had, I
probably
think, 4 rows in the gantry lift.
Yes.
And then the 2 rows that came in and filled up afterwards, we were like, hey, guys, we're all together, and we want to do the Kevin McAllister Home Alone face if you guys want to do it. Every single person on the gantry lift did it.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was so great.
Best picture ever.
Yes, that was a fun gantry lift. That might have been my favorite one.
Oh, yeah, because it was our whole party and everybody was so excited. And so when it pushed back, everyone started cheering. And we had a little guy who was, 4 years old?
Yes.
And it was his first time ever
Oh, that's
riding.
right, yes.
And he was so excited and he loved it.
He did, and he even did the Kevin McAllister
And he
face with
even did
us.
the Kevin
He was like so
McAllister.
ready. Didn't you say you turned around at one point and he was doing it almost through the whole ride?
Yes.
Because he was getting ready. He didn't know where the picture was.
Yeah,
so
because
he's
we
making
explained.
sure
Yep,
that he
we
got
explained
it.
that when the doors open, that's when they take the picture. So the first time the doors open, I turned around and he had his face ready.
So
it was so
cute.
fun. That
Super
was
cute.
seriously the funnest, and it's the only thing that ruined it was no
Not getting
Jackson
Jackson
5.
5.
Yeah, I wish we could have whispered a sweet nothing.
I
don't know.
Some pixie dust.
Really quick, let's talk about the third time that we rode Guardians that evening.
Oh my gosh. This girl had a few.
Too many.
She
Way too many.
had also not ever been on the ride, apparently. I don't know that I believe that's true.
She said that she had ridden it when she was very small
Yes.
and hadn't ridden it since. And
But
she was
in her 20s, so she hadn't ridden it since she was small. Then it was Tower of Terror.
Yes, it was a long time. She was not sober.
No.
At all.
That was rough.
And Katie was like, I'm afraid she's going to throw up on me.
I really thought.
So we traded seats, mostly because I hate the edge
not
seat.
because of that.
Right,
I would have
not
been
because
fine.
I hate the edge seat. I don't like being wedged up against the wall. And Katie was like, sure, I'll trade you. And so the entire time she was grabbing my leg and my arm, screaming bloody murder.
First, she could not get her seatbelt on.
I had to
She
seatbelt
could not
her.
find her seatbelt. Then once she did get her seatbelt on, she did not have it on correctly. So we all had to unbuckle and hold our seatbelts up in the air and rebuckle. And twice, Erin had to help her get her seatbelt on.
I had to seatbelt her.
And then when the ride was over, well, her friend was trying to film her through the whole ride, and I am just blown away that her phone didn't fly out of her hand because they were both pretty
Toasted.
snockered. I don't know what the right word is. But
How they did not throw up
I
is
don't know
beyond
either.
me.
Maybe they did run to the bathroom right after.
They did run to the bathroom
Yes.
right after. And I think, honestly, I told Katie at one point, I think she might have passed out for just a second.
I'm pretty sure she did because she wasn't making any noise for a little while. And then all of a sudden it was really loud screaming.
Yep, that very
So-
first drop, her
Yeah.
body kind of went limp next
Yeah.
to me, and I think she passed out for just a second.
That was
It
so crazy. And then she
kept dropping
tripped.
all of her stuff.
She tripped getting off of the ride. Her friend had to basically carry her down the stairs to exit.
And then
it was a
her
mess.
bag was just emptying as she was
Yes.
walking out of
She
the
dropped her
ride.
phone and stepped on it once we got outside. Anyways, that was fun. So we got to go with lots of first timers on Guardians of the Galaxy and had some very unique experiences.
Oh my goodness. So
So
many
funny.
memorable experiences.
All right, so back to our meetup crew, which we had much more fun with.
So much more. And thank you all for
Yes.
not giving us that experience. We both also got to do the Walt's Main Street Story tour.
Right. So I did it Saturday with a fun group of people. Erin did it Sunday with a fun group of people. It was a really unique, special experience. If you can do it, please sign up and do it.
Yeah.
If you are into the history or the nostalgia at all, it's fantastic. It's a great tour.
It was a great tour, and getting to go up into Walt's apartment was so cool.
That was
Getting to
worth
be
the
there.
price to me
Totally.
alone. So the rest of it was just kind of like the
A little
cherry on
fluff.
top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
We had different tour guides. Katie, what was yours name?
Great
Great
I was
question.
Just trying to think of it.
We had Evan
find it.
on our day. We
Hang
had
on.
Evan.
Paula.
And
Paula was her name.
Paula and
Yes.
Evan.
Do you want me to tell you about Paula?
Sure.
She had a very unique history, which was really cool.
I'd love to hear it.
So she has been doing tours at Disneyland since the 1970s.
Okay.
And she rubbed shoulders with people that knew Walt personally, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been to Marceline, Missouri
Okay.
a couple of times and walked around that Main Street there. So she knew a lot about, how Main Street was patterned after Marceline. And she has been to the Tivoli Gardens in Denmark, which
Cool.
Disneyland is patterned after as
Yep.
well. So she knew a lot. And she said when she got hired in the 70s, back then, one of the stipulations for being a tour guide was you had to speak a second language. And her second language was Italian. So that's why she got hired, because she could speak Italian. And she's been doing it ever since then and just loves it. And you could tell it really shone through. And when you're walking down Main Street, you typically are, looking straight ahead at the castle.
Right.
It was really fun to stop and look at the windows in detail and know what they meant. And
I wonder if each tour talks about the same windows.
I don't know.
Did
but,
she, what was one particular window she
the
spoke
Bob Gurr
about?
window. Did you guys get to look at that one
in
at
the
all?
little cove in Center Street.
Next to the lockers?
I mean, yes, but we didn't talk a whole ton about it.
Oh, we talked a ton about Bob Gurr, which
Did
is
you?
really fun because she knows him. Like, she's met him a few times. So
Okay.
that's really fun. And then have you ever noticed the little vintage Coke bottles next to
Yes.
Refreshment
I mean,
Corner?
yes, I have. But we talked a little bit about those in our
I've
tour,
just
too.
never ducked into there and looked at those before. So that was really fun
They're
to have a
cute.
little, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You're in the hustle and bustle and you're not paying attention. Those windows on the second story of the Main Street USA buildings are dedicated to pioneers
Right.
of the
Disney
Disneyland
legends.
Resort. Yeah. And so take the time to check them out because there's some really cool things up there.
Yeah. We don't want to give too much away because I want you to go do the tour. 'Cause
Right.
it's way more impactful if you have somebody that
Right.
knows what they're talking about telling you what they are. But
then we got to go upstairs and we got to go into Walt's apartment. And it's pretty much the way it was when Walt was there.
Yeah.
Which-
Everything's original except for the carpet.
Everything is
which
original
they've
except
tried
for the
really hard
carpet.
to recreate.
And
But
we've talked about the carpet on here before because it's in the original is in the Lily Bell.
Right.
But
They have it protected in the Lily Bell.
yes, there's a runner in the
Yes,
center.
so that people aren't walking on it. The wear and tear in Walt's apartment makes them need to replace the carpet every few years or whatever.
Yeah.
So they try really hard to keep it as close to the original as possible. But
Yeah, and the original
it's
was damaged
changed a
in a
little.
flood. And so the only remaining, it's very cool. If you ever get to ride the Lily Bell, that's one of the really cool things about it.
Yep.
But just cool. It's a cool place. And it's cool. It was cool to stand there and think of, Walt with his children and his grandchildren spending time in that room and, listening to the same sounds we could hear.
yeah.
And
making grilled cheese sandwiches to walk around the park with.
drinking his Tom and
Yes,
Jerry.
Apparently, he liked a handheld something to walk around the park with. Although Paula did tell us there's a little anecdote about him taking chili with him in his suitcase on a trip once. Like, he loved the chili so much he had to take it with him. So some kind of container, he took it in his suitcase, and everybody laughs about it.
That's
But
kind of funny.
Isn't that really cute?
Yeah. We had a little story about the telephone. The telephone that is in his apartment still works.
Yeah.
And apparently it rang one day when our tour guide was giving a tour.
Oh, boy.
It rang. And I was like, who has the phone number?
Right.
Like, and so anyway, apparently it's on the phone.
Really?
You know how the rotary dial in the
Yes.
center, there's that piece of
Yes.
paper? There's a phone number written on that.
So you can call Walt's apartment.
I kind of wanted to.
Right? Did you take a picture of it?
I know.
Oh.
You're not allowed to.
Oh,
I should
that's
have.
right. If you're not
so
in
I followed the rules. I didn't take any pictures
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to take, although I really feel like I could have. I feel like
Yeah.
while Evan was doing the bathroom tour, I could have been like
Right,
all
right.
over the place. I did not. I
Thank
was
you for not breaking the
respectful.
rules.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for not getting us banned for life. You're welcome.
Yes.
But yeah, apparently the phone still works. It's still
That's
connected.
really
And
cool.
one day when he was doing a tour, it rang. And I said, "You didn't pick it up?" And he said, "No, I'd get fired. I'm
Oh.
not supposed to touch anything."
Yeah.
And apparently I learned this, you probably did too, that in order to conduct those tours that end in Walt's apartment, they have to be a docent.
Oh,
They
yep.
have to have been formally trained and
Yep.
received certification to be able to take people into Walt's apartment.
Right.
So cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the tour is a maximum of 12 people, I believe.
Okay.
So it doesn't feel big. It's not huge. It was kind of hard to navigate the parks, though.
Same.
It was very busy this weekend. So I kind of felt like we were in the way of traffic.
Same.
Sometimes she'd say, "Okay, we're going to stop here." And I'd be like, "Wait a second.
There's people."
We're those people that everyone
Yes.
gets mad at
I know.
when you stop in the middle of the sidewalk.
We had, in fact, when we were stopping by Refreshment Corner to look at the Coke bottles and
Yeah.
everything like that, we walked up as a guy was trying to park his ECV. And we all gathered. So he kind of pulled forward
Yeah.
toward the Coke place. And then we
And you
gathered right
around
behind him.
Perfect. So
And
he was stuck.
Yeah. And he turned around and he looked right at us and he's like, "I'm trying to park my ECV there." And I looked at Evan and I was like, "Oh, he's trying to park here." And Evan turned around and he goes, "I'm sorry, we're just doing a tour right now. You can find another place to park."
Oh, boy.
And he was not happy about it. And he
Aw.
kind of was like grumbling about it. And Evan's like, "We're just doing a tour. There's a place over here if you'd like to park your ECV." And so I was talking to Evan about it afterwards because he was saying that he used to, in order to be a tour guide, they have to be in guest relations. And sometimes he'll work the umbrellas throughout the park. And so we were talking to him a little bit about that. And I was like, "That'd be a hard job." And he's like, "There are days
Sure.
where it's pretty challenging." And I said, "I noticed, though, that you don't take it personally.
Right.
You just give the information.
These are the facts. Yep.
And you move on."
Yeah.
And I said, and that guy was not
not
happy.
going to try to talk him into it or out of it or
Nope.
whatever. Just
And he's like, "Oh, I
here's
know.
how
I
it
heard
is."
him. I heard him cussing me out. And I was like, yeah. And I said, but I was just really impressed with you handling it calmly and just saying, I'm sorry, but here's a place for you to park. We're going to use this space right now. But yes, same thing.
It felt so busy. And at one point we were competing with the Disneyland band too, coming
Same.
up the street.
We did too. We had to pause.
Yes. She paused, but that was kind of fun.
It was
we
kind of
paused
fun.
and watched the parade come up the street. So
It was a great experience.
yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, I think it's
you
great.
get a pin, you get a cookie, you get a drink, a soda of your choice, and you get a little postcard with Walt on it.
With Walt's face, Walt's lovely little face.
Super
so we enjoyed
cute.
that.
And it's about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, I would say, total, depending
yeah.
on how long you spend in
visit
different
Afterland,
places.
yeah, or afterwards.
Yes. And then, back to Sunday, so Erin did her tour. We met back up in the parks afterwards, and then we rode some rides. We had been doing lightning lanes
Stacking them.
during the day. I'm trying to think what else. We tried to go on Soarin' with a lightning lane. Here's where we were talking about how magic bands might have come in handy. I think maybe the ride had broken down at some point because the lightning lane was out all the way past smoke jumpers when we got in.
It was insane.
Line. And we were supposed to meet everybody to ride the train full circle at 8 p.m. and it was getting close to that time. So we ducked out of that line, ran over to Disneyland, hopped on the train and did a lovely full circle tour. Currently, the New Orleans station is closed, and so you can't get off there. The first train that came while we were in line, they said, we're only going as far as Toontown, and then you have to get off, and then we're putting her to sleep. The train was going to bed.
Away. Yep.
So we waited for the next train. That train went all the way around.
And that was the last full one.
Yes. So when anyone getting on that train, when we got off, they said this train is stopping at Tomorrowland and then going to bed. So just so you know, in the evening, past 8 p.m., the trains may not make a full circle. And they also pause for fireworks, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
So that was probably part of why
And
that train wasn't going all the way
New
around.
Orleans station remains closed, so there is no entry or exit there. We also got to go meet up with our friend Joey, the Disney Wizard. We got to meet up with him and spend a little bit of time with him.
He still didn't give us any Toy Story tips.
No, and
but he did buy Erin a drink.
And he didn't ride with us, which I was really hopeful for. I was hopeful he'd come and take a ride. But it was his friend's birthday.
Yes, he was there for a birthday party.
And they were having a great time. And so we met up with him, said hello, went and rode Toy Story, and then came back and hung out with him for just a little bit that evening. We got to...
After the train, we went and rode Soarin' finally. Erin did not love it.
Oh,
Soarin' over California is not for Erin.
I had my eyes shut for probably half of it. I was very excited because I remember it. I think as I get older, it's probably getting worse. The motion sick.
Probably. But just be aware if you have that motion sickness, if you have a hard time on Star Tours or Millennium Falcon or any of that, and if you're typically okay with Soarin' around the world, Soarin' over California is a little bit different because the film is older, it's blurrier, it's a little bit wavier. So you can probably feel
the
a little
mountains.
bit more
There's a scene
motion-sick.
where there's a hang glider, a paraglider, cruising in a canyon kind of, and the mountains ripple.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden they're like,
and that did her in.
I was just like, I finally just put my head back on the headrest and I closed my eyes and I let, because there's air, you know, and I let the air blow on my face.
I personally really enjoyed it.
I'm
and
glad.
I loved the smells, the orange grove, the river.
The forest.
Yes, that smell there. I feel like, did they have the sea scent in Malibu before? Because I don't remember that, but it's the same smell that's in Tahiti or Fiji or wherever.
I think, yeah.
The same smell that's in the H2O products that they have at the hotels.
I don't know if they had it before.
I don't remember that before, but it could just
a
be
good
that
addition,
I
if
only
not.
remember the oranges, right? That's the one that stands out. But that's there too. The golf ball with the hidden Mickey on it is really fun. That's probably one of my favorite parts too. But really interesting. You maybe had your eyes closed towards the end, but they have the Christmas overlay on Soarin' over California, and I'm wondering if it's because they don't have the original film anymore.
Oh, interesting.
So when you fly into Disneyland at the end with Tinkerbell, it's decked out for Christmas. The Christmas tree's there. The castle is Christmased. So
I did not see it.
Yeah.
I was trying really just to not spill my cookies.
I just think that's really funny.
Interesting.
I did hear a rumor, though, that they did lose the original film, and so there's no way to digitize it and make it better than it is, which is really sad.
Which is really sad. Maybe it's just time to invest a little money and go record it.
Maybe.
Hire some drones, go re-record it.
Add a new scene. That'd be fun.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, We met up for one last time with anybody who was still there. And, of course, people trickled home throughout the weekend.
Right.
So we met up with anyone who was still there to record last week's episode of the podcast, talk a little bit about
Food and wine tastings.
food and wine.
That was fun.
Yeah. It was a great weekend. I'm exhausted.
Me too. But we're so excited to do it again next year. So,
And we're going to work on some things before we make any official announcements about what we're doing.
Right. Hopefully sooner than later, because that way you can make plans if
Yes.
you want to come join us. But
Yep.
it should be really, really fun.
We have some
this last
ideas.
weekend was so fun, and
was so
it can
fun.
only get better from here,
I
right?
agree. Yeah. Yeah. Again, big, huge thank you to anyone who came.
Yes. So lovely to meet everybody.
Whether you came for an hour or for the whole weekend, it was just really great.
Yep.
And everybody made an impact.
And everybody made friends with each other too, which was kind of one of my favorite
So
parts.
fun.
Everybody just got along so well. I think there were some new friendships made
Yep.
that will last for a while.
I agree.
It was beautiful to be part of that.
It's kind of fun to find community,
Yeah.
which is one of the things that we've loved. In the early days for us, it was podcasters.
Right.
Lynn's been our buddy since,
Yes.
day one.
We love Lynn.
And so in the early days, it was podcasters who reached out to us and who befriended us. And we were like, this is really cool. We get to make these friends with these people. And then it's kind of turning into just...
And then we did the gumball rally,
Yeah.
which we were blown away by, there's people that think like us that love Disney
Right.
as much as we do. We're not weird.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we're still weird.
We're still
but
weird.
there's
It's
lots
fine.
of weird people out there,
There
apparently.
are, and they're all the right brand of weird for us.
And
It's-
then, like you said, now it's these people that we feel like are really good friends.
It's all about community.
Yeah.
Right? So join our community. Plan on coming and hanging out with us next year.
We
We'll have
love
fun.
it. All right.
I think that's it.
This is your weekly reminder to follow us on Instagram at Ropedrop.Parkhop and on Facebook the same. And join our fun discussion group on Facebook too. It's called Rope Dropping and Park Hopping. People are really great in there at posting trip reviews and tips that they've learned on their most recent trips, which we really love. Keep that up.
So
and
helpful.
Go join if you want some good tips and tricks.
And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, please do that. Rate, review, share with your friends. The ratings and the reviews and the shares are what really help us grow.
Right.
And we appreciate it so much. So
Totally.
take a moment to do that if you are so inclined.
And we have a Patreon if you want to go check that out.
Ellie told you last week.
That's right. Ellie compelled you to join our Patreon.
We did not pay her to do that.
We
She
didn't.
just did that all on her own.
But-
let's talk about that really quick. We didn't talk about this in last week's podcast, but Ellie is 10, and she was the only minor that
Yes.
was there in attendance this weekend, but also just the funnest. But she, after we did our train ride, we had some beignets, and she grabbed the bag of beignets, and she jumps up because we were all kind of in a circle just visiting and talking. And she jumps into the middle of the circle, and she says, you guys, I'm going to pass this bag of beignets around, and I want everybody to share what their favorite part of this weekend has been. And I cried because really, I'm going to cry again. It was just cool. It was just, I don't know.
We feel we're regular people. We're just two regular moms that decided to chat with each other about Disneyland. And if anybody wanted to listen, they could. We didn't really think that anybody was going to want to listen.
Right.
And we didn't know that
We'd make friends.
Yeah, that people would be grateful for our tips. I don't feel like I am the Disney expert by any means.
No.
We just get on and talk about our love for Disney, and we're so grateful for all of our listeners and everybody that just cheers us on. We have so many amazing
That's what
cheerleaders.
it felt like.
Yes.
Is all of these friends of ours and we had a couple of experiences throughout the weekend that we giggled about. Katie met someone for brunch, and when she walked up, Stephanie was checking in for brunch, and then the cast member said, are there any allergies? And Stephanie's like, oh, she has a shellfish allergy.
Yes.
And somebody ordered you a Diet Coke.
Yeah, it was just,
Things happened that, you guys all know us pretty well.
yeah, we share a lot, maybe more than you would actually like.
But it was so great to get to know some of you.
Yes.
And to
I
have
loved.
that connection, and we just really appreciate it.
I feel like now I have faces that I'm talking to.
Totally.
When I'm talking to this mic right now, it's not just Erin that I'm talking to. I'm chatting with all of you.
Yeah.
So that
and
really...
we have with our Patreon, we have Zoom calls. And Zoom calls are great. It's fun to interact that way too, but
It's not quite the same.
it's not quite the same.
Yes.
And, when we leave those, when we left this weekend, I could pick I could pick 30 of you out of a crowd now, you know?
Totally. Yes.
And it's just, I'm a big fan of connection. And so I really loved being able to connect with everybody this weekend.
Yep.
And
it was, I think, everything we wanted and more
yeah, I agree.
is what we got out of this weekend. So thank you again.
So thank you.
And we will see you next week. Bye.